Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're focusing on something uh, really automatic. You probably haven't thought about it much at all. I mean, just the simple act of producing saliva, specifically from your biggest salivary gland, the parotid gland. But as we always find here, nothing the body does is really simple, is it? When you look closer, the complexity is just kind of astonishing. So today we're going inside the command structure. We want to investigate that whole intricate neural pathway, like a high-speed transport system needed just to get the parotid gland working. Our mission, really, for this deep dive is to trace the entire parasympathetic route. We're following the signal right from the brain, through all the nerve junctions, even some weird anatomical detours, all the way to the gland itself.
Yeah, and this is a brilliant one to unpack because, like you said, it's not a straight line at all, not point A to point B. Anyone expecting that is in for a surprise. There are multiple nerve crossovers, these ganglia switching points, and some really unexpected detours through anatomy that are just crucial to understanding how it all works, how the body controls this automatically.
Okay, let's do it. Let's trace the journey. Where's the absolute start? The mission control for parotid salivation. Where does that command even begin?
Right. So that signal kicks off in a very specific spot. It's a cluster of neurons deep in the brainstem called the inferior salivatory nucleus. The ISN. You can think of it as the main decision maker just for activating that parotid gland.
Inferior salivatory nucleus. And where exactly is that nucleus living? Is it somewhere tucked away?
Well, it's pretty central, actually. It's in the medulla oblongata. That's part of the brainstem. And that location is important. You know, the brainstem handles so many vital, unconscious things, breathing, heart rate.
Right, the real basics.
Exactly. So putting the ISN there just shows how fundamental salivation is for, well, basic survival. Digestion. That's where the command is born.
Okay, command issued. Medulla oblongata. Now that signal needs a ride, right? The first leg of the journey out of the brain. You called it the Glossopharyngeal Express.
That's it. That express route is the glossopharyngeal nerve, cranial nerve IX or CNIX. It's carrying what we call the presynaptic fibers. Think of it like the raw instructions, not yet fully activated. It's the main highway leaving the central nervous system.
Got it. CNIX. And it heads out of the skull through that first big checkpoint, the jugular foramen. So ISN, down the Glossopharyngeal Express, through the jugular foramen. Now we're outside the brain's bony case. But this is where things get, well, weird, isn't it? Instead of heading straight for the jaw, the signal takes this sharp, really surprising detour, the tympanic nerve shuttle. Why on earth route a saliva signal through the ear?
That is maybe the most fascinating bit, honestly. The tympanic nerve, it actually splits off from CNIX after it leaves the jugular foramen.
Yeah.
And its destination is this complex network called the tympanic plexus.
The tympanic plexus, okay. Sounds technical, but the location is the key detail here.
Absolutely. This plexus is physically located inside the middle ear, right there on the inner wall, near the eardrum. What's really mind-blowing is that the body is just using existing structures, bits, essential for hearing, as a pathway for a totally separate function like salivation. It's incredibly efficient, I suppose, but definitely complicated.
Wait, hang on. So if I'm eating something really sour and my mouth waters like crazy, that signal is literally taking a pit stop inside the same structure that picks up sound waves.
That's precisely it.
That is wild. Does that suggest any possibility of, like, crosstalk? Could a super loud noise somehow mess with salivation, even a tiny bit?
It's a great question, actually. It touches on neurological economy. Now, in a healthy person, direct clinical interference is really unlikely. The signals are distinct pathways, different jobs. But the detour itself highlights how evolution kind of builds upon what's already there, you know. The middle ear just happened to be a convenient route, the quickest way for those nerve fibers to sort of gain altitude and head towards their next crucial stop.
Okay, so the signal survived its detour through the middle ear structures, navigated the tympanic plexus. Where next? It needs a dedicated route now, I guess, to get to the activation hub.
Indeed. From that tympanic plexus, the signal effectively boards the next leg, the lesser petrosal nerve highway. This is more of a long-haul carrier.
And the purpose of this highway, is it taking the signal straight to the gland now?
Almost, but not quite. It's taking the signal to the essential transfer station. The lesser petrosal nerve is vital because it carries that raw presynaptic command signal right towards the activation point, that specific peripheral ganglion where the message finally gets switched on and properly relayed, the activation point. And that is the specific destination, the otic ganglion. Let's pause here.
Right.
Why is this transfer point, this ganglion, so critical? Why couldn't cranial nerve IX just, deliver the message directly.
Okay, yeah, this is where the synapse concept is key.
Yeah.
In the autonomic nervous system, commands almost always travel in two parts. There's a preganglionic fiber before the ganglion.
And a postganglionic fiber after the ganglion. The autoganglion is that switchboard. It's where the signal literally synapses, meaning the electrical signal jumps the gap from that original CNIX fiber to a brand new postsynaptic fiber.
So the signal arrives via CNIX, kind of dormant, and then at the ETAC ganglion, it synapses. What actually changes about the signal or the nerve carrying it after that synapse?
Well, the postganglionic fiber that picks up the message is now fully activated. It's ready to execute the command the instant it reaches the target tissue, the parotid gland cells. The ganglion acts like a final checkpoint. It ensures the signal is localized, maybe modulated a bit, and definitely optimized for immediate action by the gland. Amplification, regulation, it all happens there.
Perfect. Signal activated, final instructions loaded. Now we just need the last delivery vehicle. What serves as the auriculotemporal nerve buses to get this live command right to the parotid gland?
Yeah, brace yourself. This is arguably the most counterintuitive twist in the whole path. The final delivery nerve, the auriculotemporal nerve bus, it's not part of cranial nerve IX's system at all. It's actually a branch from a totally different cranial nerve.
Hold on. So the command started with cranial nerve X, the glossopharyngeal nerve.
Right.
But the final delivery uses a nerve from a completely separate family. That sounds like anatomical outsourcing.
It totally is. That's a great way to put it. The auriculotemporal nerve is a key branch of V3.
V3.
Yeah, the mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve, cranial nerve V. So CNIX brought the signal to the otic ganglion,
Okay.
but it's C and V, which usually handles things like, facial sensation and chewing muscles. That provides the actual wire carrying the activated message the final distance to the parotid gland.
That is genuinely mind-blowing. A literal handoff between two major cranial nerves just to make you salivate. What does that imply? Is this common in the body, this kind of cooperation?
It's a pattern you see quite often, actually. Autonomic fibers often hitchhike, you could say, along the pathways of larger sensory or motor nerves to reach their final destination. The trigeminal nerve system is huge, and importantly, it runs right past the parotid gland area. So evolutionarily, it's just much more efficient to synapse at the otic ganglion and then jump onto that existing auriculotemporal highway for the last little stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than CNIX having to grow its own dedicated, long, postganglionic fiber all the way there itself. It's really elegant biological engineering when you think about it.
Incredible. Okay, so the journey wraps up successfully when that signal, now carried by a branch of CNV, hits the parotid gland and boom, saliva. When you lay it out like that, two major cranial nerves, that crazy middle ear detour, a crucial synapse, you realize just how much is going on just to, well, moisten your mouth.
Exactly. And if we synthesize that, pull it all together, you can really focus on those three key anatomical waypoints, right?
Yeah.
We started with the inferior salivatory nucleus, the origin deep in the brainstem, then the otic ganglion was that vital synapse point, the activation hub, which needed that weird middle ear road to get there. And finally, the delivery was handled by the auriculotemporal nerve, a branch of a totally separate nerve system, the trigeminal V3.
So, okay, what does this mean for you listening right now? Beyond, maybe acing an anatomy quiz, why should you care about this specific neural map?
Well, I think it's just a moment of genuine appreciation for your own internal wiring, isn't it? The next time you maybe bite into a lemon or even just think about food and you feel that saliva start,
Yeah.
you can actually appreciate this incredibly complex 9-step neurological dance. It involves cooperation between two major nerves routing through your ear, all happening perfectly, automatically beneath your notice. It really reframes what we think of as a simple bodily function. It absolutely does. It shows that even the most basic things rely on these highly organized, surprisingly nonlinear plans. The body isn't taking shortcuts. It's taking the path that ensures, precision and control.
It certainly is. Well, thank you for mapping that out for us today. It really was surprisingly intricate. It just shows the value of taking these deep dives, even into something we experience every single day.
My pleasure. And maybe just one final thought for everyone to mull over. If controlling something as basic as salivation needs input from CNNX, uses structures in the middle ear associated with hearing, and then requires a handoff to CNV for the final delivery, what does that really tell us about how interconnected everything in the body is? Nothing seems to work in isolation. It suggests every physiological process is this complex symphony of different systems all working together. Makes you wonder what other hidden connections are out there.